Damien was a young man from a small village. He was an artist, his heart brimming with dreams. He yearned for a life less ordinary, craving more than the quiet life of his village. Damien wanted recognition. He dreamed of success. His talent was undeniable. He poured his soul into his art. Each stroke was filled with emotion, capturing the essence of life in his village. He painted the simplicity, the beauty, and the struggles. Damien's art spoke volumes, yet he knew his village couldn't give him what he desired. The city was a stark contrast to his peaceful village. Skyscrapers scraped the sky, and the streets buzzed with energy. Damien felt both excited and intimidated. Just a small-town boy with big dreams, he rented a tiny apartment. It was small, but it was his, a sanctuary in the concrete jungle. He set up a makeshift studio, his art supplies, his weapons. Damien was ready to conquer the city. He started showcasing his art. Damien's art began to turn heads. His unique style resonated with people. It was raw, emotional, and thought-provoking. It sparked conversations and challenged perspectives. People connected with Damien's art on a deeper level. He caught the eye of a renowned art critic whose glowing review praised his originality and talent. Published in a prominent art magazine, the review changed Damien's world overnight. Galleries came calling, offering him exhibitions. Collectors clamored to buy his pieces. Thrust into the limelight, Damien was the new sensation in the art world. Success had come knocking at his door. He relished his newfound fame, living the dream he had always envisioned. His art adorned the walls of prestigious galleries, and his name was whispered in art circles. Damien was on top of the world. But success came with a price. The demands on Damien's time were endless. Interviews, exhibitions, and commissions kept him busy. Constantly surrounded by people, he felt a strange sense of loneliness creeping in. The pressure to produce more mounted. Galleries wanted new pieces for exhibitions, and collectors eagerly awaited his next masterpiece. Damien felt the weight of expectations bearing down on him. No longer creating for himself, his art, once a reflection of his soul, now felt commercialized. The joy of creation was slowly being replaced by the pressure to deliver. Damien began to question his path. Was this the success he craved? The city, once a symbol of opportunity, now felt like a gilded cage. The bright lights now seemed blinding, and the noise, once exhilarating, now felt deafening. One evening, Damien wandered through the city streets. The city felt suffocating. The weight of his success felt heavy on his shoulders. He longed for escape. He craved peace. He stumbled upon a small plaza, bustling with activity. Street performers entertained the passing crowd. Damien's gaze fell upon an old man who sat on a worn stool, holding a battered guitar. His clothes were simple, his face etched with wrinkles, but his eyes held a spark. They twinkled with a quiet joy. The old man began to play. His fingers danced across the strings, and the melody filled the air. It was simple, yet beautiful. It spoke of life, love, and loss. Damien felt a connection to the music. It resonated deep within his soul. The crowd applauded as the song ended. They tossed coins into the old man's open guitar case. Damien approached the old man, drawn to his music, captivated by the serenity on the old man's face. He wanted to know the secret of his contentment. "Your music is beautiful," Damien said. "It moved me." The old man smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Thank you, young man," he replied. "Music is my solace." He introduced himself as William. Damien shared his own story, speaking of his success and confessing his growing disillusionment. William listened patiently, nodding in understanding. "The city can be a harsh mistress," William said. "It seduces you with promises of fame and fortune, but it can also steal your soul." William continued, "I too chased success. I chased wealth and recognition, but it left me empty." He strummed a soft melody on his guitar. "I found peace when I stopped chasing. I learned to find joy in the simple things." "But how do you survive?" Damien asked. "Without money, without success?" William's smile was gentle. "Survival is easy," he said. "It's finding your purpose that's hard. True wealth lies not in what you possess, but in who you are." Damien walked away from William that day, a seed of doubt planted in his heart. William's words echoed in his ears, challenging everything Damien thought he knew about success. Was he truly successful? Or was he living a lie? Had he sacrificed his soul for fame and fortune? Damien looked around at the bustling city. The city, once a symbol of his dreams, now seemed cold and impersonal. The people, once a source of inspiration, now seemed lost in their own pursuits. Damien felt a growing disconnect between himself and the world he had strived so hard to be a part of. He returned to his studio. The space, once his sanctuary, now felt stifling. Unfinished canvases leaned against the walls, mocking him with their emptiness. Damien picked up a brush, but his hand felt heavy. The joy of creation had vanished, replaced by a dull ache in his chest. Damien tried to ignore the doubts gnawing at him. He threw himself into his work, trying to recapture the passion he once felt. But it was no use. His heart wasn't in it. The more he tried to force it, the more hollow his art felt. The seed of doubt had taken root, and it was beginning to grow. Days turned into weeks. Damien was caught in a battle within himself. On one side was the allure of success, the fame, the money, the recognition, all the things he had ever wanted. On the other side was a yearning for something more, a longing for authenticity, for meaning, for a connection to something bigger than himself. He thought about William. The old musician had so little, yet he possessed a quiet joy that Damien craved. William had found contentment in his music, in his connection to something beyond the material world. He had chosen purpose over profit, and in doing so he had found true wealth. Damien realized that he had been living a lie. He had allowed himself to be defined by external validation, by the fickle whims of the art market. He had sacrificed his integrity for the sake of success, and in the process, he had lost himself. The realization was both liberating and terrifying. Liberating because it freed him from the shackles of others' expectations. Terrifying because it meant starting over. It meant confronting his own insecurities. It meant choosing a path that was uncertain and potentially perilous. Damien made a decision. He would no longer be a slave to the demands of the market. He would no longer compromise his artistic vision for the sake of profit. He would paint what he felt, what he believed in, even if it meant sacrificing his success. He knew it wouldn't be easy. He was walking away from everything he had worked so hard for. The galleries wouldn't understand. The collectors would be disappointed. He might even become a laughingstock in the art world, but Damien was willing to risk it all. He had found a new purpose. He was no longer driven by greed or ambition. He was driven by a desire to create art that was true to himself, art that spoke to the soul. He cleared out his studio, stripping away the remnants of his old life. He got rid of the canvases that felt forced, the paintings that lacked heart. He started with a blank canvas, a symbol of his fresh start. He picked up a brush and closed his eyes. He took a deep breath and let go of all his fears, all his doubts. He allowed his intuition to guide him, his emotions to flow through him. When he finally opened his eyes, he was surprised by what he saw. The canvas was no longer blank. It was filled with colors and shapes that seemed to have appeared on their own. The painting was raw, untamed, and unlike anything he had ever created before. It was a reflection of his inner turmoil, his journey of self-discovery. It was honest, it was vulnerable, and it was beautiful. Damien felt a sense of satisfaction that he had never experienced before. It wasn't the fleeting thrill of recognition, but a deep, abiding joy that came from creating something true. He continued to paint in this new style, letting go of all expectations, all desire for external validation. He experimented with different techniques, explored different themes, always searching for a way to express the depths of his soul. His art became a form of meditation, a way to connect with something larger than himself. He painted about his struggles, his fears, his hopes, his dreams. He painted about the beauty he saw in the world, even in the midst of pain and suffering. He shared his new work with the world, not through prestigious galleries or high-end auctions, but through small, intimate exhibitions held in community centers and cafes. He didn't care about attracting wealthy collectors or influential critics. He wanted to connect with people who appreciated art for what it was, an expression of the human spirit. To his surprise, people responded. They were drawn to the raw honesty of his work, its emotional depth, its vulnerability. They saw in his paintings a reflection of their own struggles, their own search for meaning and purpose. A small but dedicated following began to grow around Damien's art. They weren't interested in buying his paintings as investments or status symbols. They were drawn to the emotional connection, the way his art made them feel seen and understood. Word of mouth spread. People told their friends about the artist who painted from the heart. Damien's small exhibitions began to attract larger crowds. People from all walks of life came to see his work. Students, teachers, shopkeepers, retirees. They connected with his art on a deeply personal level, finding solace, inspiration, and a sense of shared humanity in his paintings. Damien's life was no longer consumed by the relentless pursuit of wealth and fame. He found a quiet satisfaction in his art, in his connection with his small but devoted audience. The city, once a symbol of his ambition, now faded into the background. It was simply the backdrop for his life, not the driving force behind it. He no longer worried about critical acclaim or financial success. His art was no longer a commodity to be bought and sold, but a gift to be shared. The joy he had lost returned, purer and more profound than before. He had traded the fleeting validation of the masses for the quiet appreciation of a few, and in doing so, he discovered a richness that no amount of money could buy. The pressure he had once felt to conform, to produce art that met the expectations of others, dissipated. In its place was a newfound freedom. He was free to experiment, to explore, to create art that was true to his vision, no matter how unconventional it might seem. His art became a reflection of this newfound peace. The colors were brighter, the compositions bolder, the emotions more raw and unfiltered. He painted with a sense of abandon, no longer afraid to expose his heart to the world. His art was no longer a performance but a conversation, an invitation to connect on a deeper level. Damien's journey was a testament to the transformative power of authenticity. In a world obsessed with material success, he had chosen a different path, a path less traveled, a path that led him back to himself. He had discovered that true success was not measured by the size of his bank account or the number of accolades he received, but by the depth of his integrity and the richness of his inner life. Looking back on his journey, Damien realized that his initial desire for wealth and recognition had stemmed from a place of insecurity, a need for external validation. He had sought to fill a void within himself with material possessions and the fleeting admiration of strangers. It was only when he let go of these desires, when he embraced his true self, flaws and all, that he found true contentment. His story was a beacon of hope, a reminder that it was possible to live a meaningful life in a world that often seemed to value superficiality over substance. Damien's journey was an inspiration to those who felt lost in the pursuit of material gain, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit to rise above adversity and find solace in creativity and self-expression. Damien had come full circle. He had left his village seeking fame and fortune, only to discover that true wealth lay not in what you possessed, but in who you were. He had returned to the essence of his art, the joy of creation, the power of connection. He had found peace, not in the glittering lights of the city, but in the quiet depths of his own soul.